Death Valley Germans. In 1996, a German family of 4 set out for what should have been a fun vacation in Death Valley, one of the most unforgiving places on Earth. But instead of a great adventure, they walked straight into one of the desert's most unsettling mysteries. Here's the eerie part. Their car was found abandoned in the scorching desert, but the family? Completely gone. No sign of them, just some strange clues that have baffled investigators for years. What clues? Well, they found a camera with pictures of the family smiling like everything was fine, some beer cans, and a few odd items scattered around. Why leave a perfectly functioning car in the middle of nowhere, especially in that deadly heat? And a beer in the desert? Sure, it might lighten the mood, but dehydration was their real enemy here. Things only got weirder. Despite extensive searches, no bodies were found for over a decade. Imagine a whole family just vanishing into thin air. People started to wonder if Death Valley itself was hiding them. Then, in 2009, 13 years later, their bones were finally discovered, but they weren't where anyone expected. They were miles away from the car, in an even more dangerous part of the desert. It's like the family wandered deeper into trouble. But why? Did they get lost? Or was something or someone leading them in the wrong direction? This raises some creepy questions. Were they victims of Death Valley's harsh conditions? Or was something else going on? Could they have been chased? Did they see something they weren't supposed to? One thing's for sure, this isn't just a simple case of getting lost. The desert holds secrets, and sometimes it keeps them forever. Flannan Isles Lighthouse Keepers. Just think of yourself as one of 3 lighthouse keepers on a remote Scottish island in 1900. Your job? Keep the light shining for passing ships. It sounds lonely, right? Now, add a mysterious twist. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse mystery has baffled people for over a century. In December 1900, a relief ship arrived to check on the keepers Thomas Marshall, James Ducat, and Donald MacArthur. But something was wrong. There were no welcoming waves, no signs of life, just silence. When the crew stepped ashore, it got even weirder. The lighthouse was empty, no keepers in sight, and inside, half-eaten meals left behind. Like the men had suddenly vanished mid-dinner. Picture a warm, hearty Scottish meal, abandoned. Why would anyone leave that? Then there's a bizarre detail of the keeper's logbook. It mentions storms, except the weather record showed calm seas. What storms were they writing about? Had they imagined it? Or were they swept away by some phantom gale? Theories? Oh, there are plenty. Some say a massive wave hit the island and carried the men into the sea. But these were experienced keepers. They knew the dangers. Would all 3 really be caught off guard? It gets darker. Could foul play have been involved? The isolated Flannan Isles seem like an odd place for crime, but the lack of evidence leaves room for wild speculation. Jealousy? Madness? Or a deadly fight? And then there's the supernatural. Were they snatched by a sea monster? Or abducted by aliens? Okay, maybe not, but in a case this strange, anything feels possible. 3 men vanished without a trace, leaving behind more questions than answers. The Flannan Isles mystery still haunts us, a reminder that even the most routine jobs can turn dangerous in the blink of an eye. Jim Sullivan. Suppose you're a 1970s musician cruising through the endless New Mexico desert. The sky stretches forever, the air feels almost otherworldly. This was Jim Sullivan's reality in 1975, a brilliant guitarist with a small but loyal fan base. Then, just like that, he vanished. Jim wasn't your average musician. His 1969 album, UFO, was full of eerie themes, alien abductions, desert disappearances, and strangely, it felt like a soundtrack to his own life's mystery. 6 years after recording it, Jim was gone. In March 1975, Jim set off alone to Nashville, hoping to boost his career. He never made it. His car was found abandoned on a desert road in Santa Rosa, New Mexico. Inside were his guitar, wallet, and unsold records, but no Jim. Now, think about this. Jim was an experienced traveler. Why would he ditch his car in the middle of nowhere, under the scorching desert sun and freezing nights? Here's where it gets spooky. His album UFO, with all its talk of aliens and disappearances, was Jim's fate some weird, self-fulfilling prophecy? Did he predict his own end, or worse, was he part of something much stranger? One theory is that Jim got lost, succumbed to the desert's brutal elements, and died. But if that's the case, where's his body? The New Mexico desert is vast, but surely someone would have found him by now. Another theory is much wilder. What if Jim was abducted by aliens, like in his songs? It sounds like sci-fi, but the parallels between his music and Disappearance are hard to ignore. Jim Sullivan's vanishing act leaves us wondering, was he just in the wrong place at the wrong time? Or did something far more extraordinary happen under that massive New Mexico sky? Either way, his story continues to haunt us. Springfield Three. It was a quiet June night in 1992, Springfield, Missouri. Suzanne Streeter, her friend Stacy McCall, and Suzanne's mom, Cheryl Levitt, were home, winding down after a late night out. By morning, they had become the center of one of America's most chilling mysteries. The three women had plans to hit a water park the next day, but when friends showed up in the morning, something felt off. The house was silent, their cars were still there, and nothing seemed out of place. The really strange part? Their handbags, keys, and even Cheryl's cigarettes were left behind. I mean, who forgets their smokes, especially if you're a habitual smoker? Then, there's the broken porch light cover. Could it be an accident? Or was someone trying to hide in the shadows? There was no signs of a struggle, no cries for help, no forced entry. How do three people just disappear without a trace, without making a sound? To make matters worse, a crucial voicemail was accidentally deleted before the police could hear it. Just imagine losing the one piece of evidence that could have cracked the case wide open. Was it a friend or a threat? We'll never know. Theories swirled. Maybe the woman let someone in who they knew, but if they did, how did things go so wrong so quickly? Others believe this was the work of professionals. Meticulous, quiet, and quick, but why target these three? And then comes the eerie theories. Maybe something supernatural is involved. Aliens? Spirits? It sounds far-fetched, but nothing about this case makes sense. Over 30 years later, the Springfield Three are still missing. It's the kind of mystery that makes you double-check your locks and wonder what's lurking in the night. What really happened that night? We may never know. Beaumont Children. It was Australia Day 1966, a perfect summer day in Adelaide. Jane Arna and Grant Beaumont, just kids, headed to the beach just like they'd done many times before. No big deal, right? Adelaide parents didn't stress about their kids hitting the beach solo back then, but for the Beaumont family, this day turned into a nightmare. The kids were spotted talking to a tall, blonde man at the beach. He seemed friendly, maybe even someone they knew. After that, they vanished. Their towels and belongings were left behind like they just stepped away for a minute, but they never came back. Panic set in when their mom, Nancy, realized they weren't home. The largest search in Australian history kicked off, but nothing was found. No kids, no clues. Just an empty hole in the lives of the Beaumont family. Then things got even crueler. Months after the kids' disappearance, Nancy received letters allegedly from Jane. They claimed the kids were safe, living a happy new life. Imagine the relief. Only to find out later the letters were fake, written by someone twisted enough to play on a grieving mother's hopes. Theories? Plenty. Some say a predator planned the whole thing, luring the kids away with promises of fun. Others think wealthy, childless couples might have taken them. But despite years of searches and leads, there's no ransom note, no bodies, no answers. This case shook Australia. Parents started watching their kids more closely, and the beach, a place of fun, became a reminder of something darker. Decades later, detectives are still chasing clues, trying to solve this heartbreaking mystery. What really happened to Jane Arna and Grant? Did someone they trusted take them? Or was a predator lurking in plain sight? It's Australia's biggest unsolved case, leaving more questions than answers. Lars Mittank. In 2014, Lars Mittank, a regular guy from Germany, just wanted a chill vacation on Bulgaria's sunny beaches. He loved football, hanging out with friends, and having a good time. But what started as a fun trip turned into one of the most bizarre missing person cases. During a scuffle over a football game, Lars injured his eardrum. The local doctor advised him not to fly back with his friends. So they left, and he stayed behind. Then, things took a weird turn. Lars started acting strangely. He called his mom, Sandra, saying he was being followed and that someone was about to get him. He even sent her a text saying he'd been given drugs without his knowledge. Surveillance footage showed him pacing anxiously around his hotel lobby, peeking out windows, looking genuinely freaked out, but no one was actually following him. On the day of his flight home, Lars went to the airport, but instead of flying, he visited the doctor to check his ear. And that's when it got even stranger. Lars suddenly bolted, leaving behind his passport, phone, and luggage. CCTV captured him running out of the airport and into the woods. That was the last time anyone saw Lars Mittank. So, what happened? Some think Lars suffered from a mental breakdown due to stress, injury, or even paranoia. Maybe he thought he was being chased when he really wasn't. Others believe something more sinister was at play. Did he see something he shouldn't have? Was he really being followed, or was he on some unknown drug? Despite massive searches, Lars vanished without a trace. A man disappearing in broad daylight at an airport? That's terrifying. Lars Mittank's case remains one of the most puzzling unsolved disappearances to this day. Maura Murray. In February 2004, 21-year-old Maura Murray, a nursing student, became the center of one of the most baffling mysteries. It all started with a late-night car crash on a quiet, icy road in Haverhill, New Hampshire. After hitting a snowbank, Maura's black Saturn was left on a sharp bend. A few passerbys offered help, but Maura insisted she didn't need it. Despite not having cell service to call for AAA, moments later, when the police arrived, she was gone, vanished into the freezing night. Her car was locked, her belongings untouched, and no sign of where she had gone. Earlier that day, Maura had emailed her professors, claiming a family emergency would keep her out for a week. Yet, no family crisis existed. What was she really planning? Before the crash, Maura withdrew $280 from an ATM, bought a bunch of wine, and sent a message to someone saying, "I love you more, stud." Sounds like she had something else on her mind. The accident itself raised more questions. The road had sharp curves, but the crash wasn't severe. Strangely, there were no footprints in the snow, and Maura had stuffed a rag in the exhaust pipe. Why? Her family and friends were shocked. They didn't expect her to be traveling, let alone vanish in such a remote, forested area. Did she run off to start a new life? Did someone abduct her? Was it all a ploy to disappear? Some say she succumbed to the cold, while others suggest something more sinister like foul play. Years later, her case remains unsolved, and every theory seems more bizarre than the last. How does someone disappear so completely? Maura Murray's case continues to puzzle us, leaving behind only chilling questions. MV Joyita. In 1955, the MV Joyita, a commercial ship whose name means Little Jewel, became the center of one of the creepiest maritime mysteries. What was supposed to be a routine trip from the Samoa to the Tokelau Islands turned into an unexpected disappearance that still baffles people today. The Joyita was found drifting in the South Pacific, 600 miles off course, partially submerged and tilting, but still afloat. One engine was destroyed, and water was seeping in. Yet, surprisingly, the ship hadn't sunk. The real shocker? All 25 passengers and crew were missing. Vanished. Gone. Now, let's look at the weird clues. The ship's radio was tuned to an emergency frequency, suggesting a failed Mayday call. But the ship's logbook? Missing. Lifeboats? Gone. And no sign of bodies. Investigators found the engine covered with mattresses. Weird, right? Maybe to quiet the noise. Even stranger, the clocks had all stopped at 10:25. It's like something out of a horror movie. Adding to the confusion, the ship's food, medical supplies, and even empty drums were untouched. No sign of a struggle, no evidence of a robbery gone wrong. It wasn't sinking either. The Joyita had a cork-lined hull, making it practically unsinkable. So why did the crew abandon it? Theories range from modern pirates to a freak natural event, like a waterspout or rogue wave. Some say bloodstains on the deck point to foul play, but that was never confirmed. The experienced captain, Thomas Miller, wasn't the type to just leave a ship, so what really forced them off? The Joyita's fate is still an unsettling reminder that the ocean holds secrets we may never uncover. What happened to the crew? Were they victims of a strange phenomenon? Or something even darker? The mystery lingers, and we're often left wondering. Madeleine McCann. In May 2007, the McCann family's vacation in Portugal took a devastating turn when 3-year-old Madeleine McCann vanished from their holiday apartment in Praia da Luz. While her parents dined at a nearby restaurant just 50 meters away, Madeleine disappeared, setting off a global media frenzy. Despite years of searches, pleas, and even $1 million reward, Madeleine was never found. Here's where things get strange. The McCanns left their children sleeping while checking on them periodically, like many vacationing parents. But during one of those checks, they discovered Madeleine was gone, the window wide open. What followed were endless theories, from child trafficking rings to elite conspiracies. Shockingly, Madeleine's parents, Kate and Gary McCann, were declared suspects by the Portuguese police. The accusations divided public opinion, with some believing they were guilty, while others thought it was a distraction from finding the real kidnappers. It seemed absurd to think that the parents would orchestrate such a massive media campaign if they were responsible. One key clue came from a family friend who claimed to have seen a man carrying a child early in the morning. Was it a kidnapper? a tourist with their own child. The mysteries deepened when British authorities later cleared a man who fit the description. False sightings of Madeleine in places like Morocco and Australia gave fleeting hope but only added to the heartbreak. In 2020, German authorities announced that Christian Bruckner, a convicted criminal, was a prime suspect. He lived near Praia de Luz when Madeleine disappeared. But despite the suspicion, no solid evidence has ever emerged to arrest him. Madeleine's disappearance remains a haunting mystery. It's a chilling reminder that no matter how safe we feel, life can change in an instant.